All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. We still got some folks who are logging in, but my introductions will probably buy them enough time. And without further ado, I'm Aaron Goldman. I lead marketing here, and this is our Mediaocean Current, which is our ongoing webinar series. Today, we've got a great session lined up on TV advertisers' next chapter, featuring Forrester and some amazing industry leaders. And here they are. So in just a second, I'll introduce Nikhil. He'll take you through about 15 or so minutes worth of content from his latest report on TV advertising in the future. Then I'll bring up Steph Dorman, who's our Chief Operating Officer for Prisma, and she'll lead a discussion with Tracy Chavez, EVP Managing Director for PMX1 Local, and Melissa Machete, EVP Media Investment and Innovation at Active International. So they'll talk for about 30 minutes or so, and then I'll do a quick wrap up at the end with some announcements. And as always, I'll leave you with some QR codes to get more information. So stick around. It should be a great event. And to kick things off, I'd like to introduce Nikhil Lai. He's a principal analyst at Forrester. For those that don't know Forrester, they are a leading provider of research and client advisory for the marketing space. Nikhil's research focuses on the evolution of performance marketing, including creative, retail media, search, TV, audio, out of home. I think we got all the channels. We'll just call it omnichannel. And prior to Forrester, he was at Marpipe and Simulmedia, and he started his career at GE. It is a great privilege to have him here to talk about his latest research on TV advertising. So without further ado, over to you, Nikhil.
Thanks so much, Aaron, for hosting me, and thanks for featuring Forrester's research. So as we discuss TV advertising's next chapter, I think it's important to remember where we've come from. TV advertising began in 1941. That's when the first TV commercial, which was a 10-second, $9 ad for Bulova watches, aired on NBC. And ever since then, TV advertising has formed and reflected the broader advertising industry. So in the 1950s, the industry boomed as millions of Americans spent pent-up demand on TV sets in their living room, and then big brands like GE and Colgate sponsored long-form TV programs to impress those audiences who were leaning back. Then in the 60s, those long-form sponsored programs gave way to 30 and 60-second spots, bought in large part by cigarette brands on which the ad industry became hooked. Then cigarettes disappeared from TV, and 15-second spots gained currency as attention shrunk and the industry moved towards mobile. Now, in 2025, TV advertising is digitizing, and the broader industry is evangelizing full funnel advertising. So let's talk about three trends that condition and drive that transformation. The first trend is that TV's connection to the internet's infrastructure makes it more measurable. Right? So TV ads increasingly rely on internet-enabled identifiers like IP addresses and hashed emails, which make it easier to quantify TV's halo effects. As Ramsey, the president of Prisma, rightly said, it typically took a year to get outcome-oriented measurement that gave advertisers a sense of the efficacy of TV. Now, advertisers can pretty quickly map TV ad exposures to internet-connected identifiers, and within 5 minutes of a TV spot airing, attribute a fraction of credit to TV for lifting consideration and sales. So the second big trend that's occurring is that consumers crave on-demand TV, and therefore publishers are pushing streaming. The most cost-effective forms of TV remain broadcast and over-the-air, but they're losing attention and ad dollars to streaming TV, whose audiences are swelling and whose CPMs are falling. I mean, the CPMs for streaming TV are still pretty high. I think they're too high. They're about 2 to 5 times higher than linear TVs and somewhat detached from the intrinsic value of streaming TV. But streaming TV remains an effective way to replace lost reach on linear and get incremental reach beyond online video. So then legacy TV buyers expect streaming TV to deliver the kind of cost-effective broad reach that they're conditioned to expect from linear. And then the new-to-TV brands are expecting similar performance from streaming TV that they're getting from pre-roll and outstream video, and even from search and social. The third big trend that's conditioning this transformation is that advertisers increasingly leverage a programmatic infrastructure to buy TV, right? So linear and streaming TV is increasingly mediated by DSPs and SSPs whose roots are in display advertising. And those technologies make deciding which network, which program, which day part to buy, and capping frequency across apps seemingly more data-driven. But doubt is growing about the ability of these middlemen in programmatic supply chain to effectively map and sequence TV ads. A lot of TV is still bought via direct insertion order. The majority is programmatic guaranteed, which is not biddable. So doubt is growing. I'll talk a bit about how to resolve that doubt and how to get closer to TV viewers. So if you go to the next slide, TV is digitizing, and ever since the 40s, it's obviously progressed quite a bit, but it's a mistake to treat TV just like digital media, right? So TV is increasingly bought and sold like digital, which meets viewers' needs for convenience and advertisers' needs for addressability, but it's wrong to pit TV against digital. TV complements rather than competes with digital media. If you go to the next slide, that complementary impact comes from the fact that TV fills the top of the funnel with first touch new users, right? So the ubiquity, the accessibility of conversion and transaction data encourages advertisers to hold TV accountable to digital-like KPIs at the bottom of the funnel, CPA, return on ad spend, but forcing TV to the bottom of the funnel comes at the expense of incremental reach and brand growth. TV augments rather than contends with digital, and if you're holding TV accountable to a really aggressive CAC goal, you're going to be losing share of voice over time. The second thing about TV plus or minus digital is that TV reaches broad, weak intent audiences, which necessitates low CPM. So streaming TV, I mentioned, commands a premium based on the promise of digital-like addressability yielding high response rates. But Forrester's data shows that 41% of B2C marketers cite streaming TV's high CPMs as among their greatest challenges with TV advertising, which indicates that, that streaming TV's response rates do not always offset those high CPMs. So ironically, TV's value is in its imprecision, right? It lifts awareness and intent across really broad audiences of non-buyers, light buyers, medium buyers, and heavy buyers. And it specializes in taking viewers from a frequency of 0 to a frequency of 1 and can do that at scale unlike any other channel. So when you're overpaying to reach narrow in-market audiences, that undermines TV's brand building potential, the ability to build memory structures, to strengthen associations between your brand and certain sentiments or certain themes. And it also undermines TV's incrementality, which comes from taking people out of market with a frequency of 1 and creating intent for them to learn more about your brand. The third thing here is that TV lends itself to direct buying, right? So programmatic workflows, we talked a bit about DSPs and SSPs. They work really well for the display advertising market, which is highly fragmented. But TV is not as fragmented as display, and therefore needn't be as biddable. So roughly 90% of the streaming TV impressions come from the 10 biggest publishers, and it's more efficient and more effective to buy directly from those publishers than to give roughly 20% to DSPs for decisioning, frequency capping, sequencing, all of which are diminished by data deprecation or signal loss. This is not to say that you don't need ad tech to buy TV. It's still really important to have cross-channel planning tools. But this is to say that you need to get closer. So cross-channel planning tools and really insightful ad serving, I would say, are the two keys, the two key pieces of ad tech that you need to buy TV. But you don't need to go through this convoluted supply chain to buy a TV, despite the fact that the supply chain is making it more like digital. Okay, so we talked a bit about where TV is coming from, some of the issues with TV's digital transformation, some of the upside, some of the downside. So what's a marketer to do? I think that you can actually transcend the false choice between TV's past and potential and adopt a strategy that blends the best of yesterday and tomorrow. So for instance, gross ratings points, GRPs, they distance TV from the middle and the bottom of the funnel, and they could be phased out, I think, in favor of new KPIs that measure TV's full funnel efficacy. TRPs and GRPs can be phased out. But other elements of TV's past, like index-based buying and the value of cost-effective reach at the top of the funnel, which generates retargeting pools and increments unaided awareness, those remain really relevant. So I'll propose, 4 ways to sort of synergize TV's past and future. So index and audience-based buying. Index-based buying prioritizes premium programming, and that's been alluring for decades. All the trending content produced by Amazon, Netflix, Disney, just like NBC, ABC, and CBS before them, tempts buyers to believe that programs with the biggest audiences have the most effective ads. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes it makes mathematical sense to buy the Kentucky Derby, but it's more cost effective to reach bourbon drinkers on other programs. And that's where audience-based buying comes into play. And audience-based buying leverages TV's growing wealth of viewing data and ACR data to reach high-intent audiences wherever they are. And so when you pair index and audience-based buying, you create this surround sound experience for viewers and really strengthen TV's halo effects on the middle of the funnel and the bottom of the funnel. The second thing here, I've talked about TV supply chain, which includes publisher ad servers and SSPs and ACR vendors and DSPs and more, and that gets convoluted. And so I think that you can avoid this mess by getting as close as possible to viewers and transacting directly with publishers, not without planning ad tech, not without strong ad serving, but transact directly with those publishers using the buy-side technology that they're building. Warner Brothers Discovery launched Neo at this year's upfronts. Other publishers are following suit, giving buyers direct access to premium video inventory across streaming and linear TV. And so you can pair that direct buying with curation capabilities, which empower advertisers to define and qualify inventory so you can realize that value of TV without sacrificing cost effectiveness and scale. The third thing here is about linear and streaming TV. So you still need both to reach incremental households, generate unaided awareness, mitigate that CPM inflation that's coming from streaming TV. And the decline of linear TV, though real, is exaggerated. And streaming TV, though growing quickly, delivers excessive frequency and relatively unrewarding ads. I think we can all speak to that based on our viewing behaviors. And streaming TV's gift and curse, I would say, is that it's hyper targeted. So you get the response rates, but you miss the halo impact that linear has. So you have to work with both of these. Work with technology providers, work with service providers to identify and minimize overlapping reach between these two types of TV. The optimal frequency we're finding is between 2 to 5 across screens. When the frequency gets way above 5 across screens, that begins to hurt conversion rates. And then pair both types of TV with digital so that you can retarget viewers of a TV ad with display, for example. And we're finding that when consumers are first exposed to a brand on TV and then subsequently exposed to that brand on display, they are more susceptible to that retargeting than they would be without that initial exposure on TV. Which gets to the fourth point about TV's short and long-term impact. So TV works well in the long term. I talked about the economies of scale, because over time, TV over-indexes on new customer acquisition, unlike other channels that have diminishing marginal utility the more you spend on them. And so you can use sort of classic tactics like unaided awareness surveys to measure TV's long-term impact on new to brand sales, as your brands have been doing for decades. But then pair that with the newfound ability to prove TV's short-term impacts on the middle of the funnel. So work with, again, tech providers, service providers to learn how TV ad exposures cause consumers who would have searched for generic terms to instead search for branded terms. And this makes TV plus search or TV plus digital a more profitable way to compete for traffic than just TV or than just digital. So, we're seeing in our consumer data that when folks are exposed to a brand on TV, they're more likely to use that brand's name when searching down the funnel. And so they're exposed to less competitive information. The auction is much more profitable for that brand when it's branded versus non-branded. Impulse buying intent goes up. So it's having all these halo effects on social media and display advertising and PPC that wouldn't occur without TV. And so a couple metrics to keep an eye on to measure the short and long-term impacts. I say blended ROAS is a good one. So you can show what happens over time to blended return on ad spend as you heavy up on TV. Another metric similarly is marketing expense ratio, which is the percentage of sales spent on marketing. And both of these are going to show that as awareness kicks in, it's causing that mid-funnel efficiency, it's diverting people from generic to branded terms, and it's causing cost per acquisition efficiency that wouldn't occur without TV. And so many of the brands that I speak to who are spending the most on TV are doing it because they're able to prove TV's impact on blended ROAS or marketing expense ratio and use those KPIs as the North Star to show how the rest of the mix becomes more efficient as you heavy up on linear and streaming TV. And here's a blog about the past and future of TV advertising, how to sync the two. Feel free to reach out directly to me at nlai@forrester.com. That's 2 R's in Forrester. And would love to chat about your challenges with TV advertising, any feedback to the research that I did, would love to hear that feedback. And again, to the Mediaocean team, thanks so much for hosting me.
Thanks, Nikhil. Appreciate you. That was excellent content. We did drop a link to that blog post in the chat so everybody can access that. That's public. Of course, Forrester clients can download Nikhil's latest research through the portal. So thanks again, Nikhil. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day. Please stay tuned, of course, because we've got a great session and panel conversation coming up. I will introduce that in just a second. First, I want to embarrass Steph a little bit. She didn't know I was going to do this, but for those who don't know, Steph Dorman was just recently named a top 25 woman in media by Synopsys for the customer and client support category. So you can see the QR code here. I think we'll drop the chat in too to the link where you can see all the people who won this award. It is a great, we're super proud. Anyone who's worked with Steph knows that she brings great energy to the business. And yeah, we're just super grateful to have her here. She's been with the company, I think, just over 15 years, recently promoted to Chief Operating Officer for Prisma. So she'll have a continued impact on the company and the industry moving forward. All right, Steph, sorry, that was your intro, but come on, camera here. I will turn it over to you to introduce the panel. Take it away. Thanks.
Great, thank you. I went on camera and then quickly went off because I was like, oh no. Thank you all for joining us today. We have a lot to cover. So this is going to be a very timely and insightful discussion on TV advertising's next chapter. I am joined by two badass bosses in our industry. Tracy and Melissa, can you take a moment to tell us a bit about yourselves?
Sure. First, thank you guys so much for having me. I'll go ahead and kick it off. I'm Tracy Chavez. I run all of local across PMX, so Publicis. I have been in the industry for 20 plus years. Started at a small, medium-sized agency doing buying and planning of media, and then moved into the holding co world for a little while. went back out and then came back and went back out and worked at JCPenney headquarters in marketing for 6+ years. And then came back. I've been with Publicis now for a little over 10 years, and I've been running the local arm for about 6 years. I love marketing and media. It's just such a nuanced and challenging place, and I absolutely am passionate about local media and the differences that each little market across the country allows us to address. So it's an exciting time in the local media space and in the linear TV space as well. And I'm a mom, a grandma, and I live in Dallas, Texas.
So I'm Melissa Machete, and I oversee the investment teams here at Active International across video, audio, out of home, direct response, national, our direct digital and private marketplace, as well as local, which is where I started with kind of my roots. I've been here for a very long time, probably longer than I'm willing to admit, and approaching 20 years in the industry as well. I've spent a lot of time here, not only leading the investment teams who kind of we have a great leadership team that help to lead themselves, but also working with our IS teams and our tech development partners around what sort of products that do we need for customers as this industry continues to evolve really, really quickly. So work with the IS teams as well as the tech build out teams to create products like we have a proprietary video platform that does cross channel across all the different types of media that Nikhil was just talking about, to try to bring it all together, which is just still a challenge I think that we are all facing today. I also have 3 children that keep me really, really busy and really, really tired, but it's probably one of the most rewarding things.
I feel like we could do a separate session on just balancing all of the stuff that we balance with kids and grandchildren and home life with the amazing jobs that you women do in this industry, which is fantastic. We do have a lot to cover in 30 minutes. I feel like this report was both timely and very interesting perspective. And I don't think we'll be able to even nearly hit all the stuff we probably could in this time. So we're going to dive right in. And I'll start with this. Nikhil outlined how TV's digital transformation is both connecting and complicating the media landscape. There are hundreds of possible paths to reach broadcasters with conflicting measurement, data, and targeting solutions. So, how can we possibly determine what worked? Tracy, we'll start with you. What are some of the tough conversations that you're having with your clients? Is it fragmentation? Is it cost inflation? Is it proving ROI? And how has this shifted your team's approach to TV?
It's you nailed the top 3, right? The complication of the shift and the understanding and education that is required across the channels. Just to understand what Nikhil had been talking about, you cannot treat linear TV just like you treat online video, just like you treat digital display. It requires a nuance, and it requires an understanding of the role of the channel and how it works and how you want to use it within a strategy. Also, I would say the measurement, like how are we reporting measurement specifically at the local level? It is challenging. Constantly, we don't have accurate and consistent and timely measurement all the time. So we work with our measurement partners to refine and enhance that, as everybody on this call probably knows. That's been going on for some time. And then the costs, going so far down the advanced targeting rabbit hole sometimes can become quite expensive. And how do you balance that? It's almost how do you balance the brand between promotions and what is the right amount of each of those that you need. So we stay close to our clients at Publicis to ensure that we're addressing those issues head on. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, great. And actually, Melissa, thinking about the barter environment, how does the shift from linear TV to the fragmented CTV environments change the role of barter trade in delivering value to clients?
I'm not sure that it really changes the role. I think the core of what we do is provide value and growth opportunities for our clients to use operating expenses or find efficiencies in media from the way that we're able to create our trading and barter properties. I think what it allows us to do is continue those conversations, similar to what Tracy said around staying really close to, like, where are you heading? What are you looking to do? Our company was kind of built on this entrepreneurial spirit of, like, if you build it, they will come, or if they come, we will build it. So we kind of take that approach of what do they need, and what are we going to do to make sure that we're here today for what they need and we're here tomorrow for what they're looking to do. And the barter model is as old as time, right? People trading eggs for horses or whatever back in the day. So we're here in a way that we think that we're just continuing to figure out what's the next way that we're going to create our trades and our positions and our value for our customers and for our partners to continue to push forward as this marketplace continues to converge and diverge.
I love that reference to eggs and horses. My husband recently left corporate and went into small business, and as a small business owner has been bartering with other small business owners for services, which means that my house is constantly in disarray in various states, because it's both fun to barter, but it's also we're also at the bottom of the list for everything. So just curious, and this is for either one of you or both, how are your clients thinking about reallocating their budgets between linear TV and CTV? You know, what are driving their decisions? You know, what kind of, going back to the conversation question as well, Tracy, what are you guys hearing on this? Hearing and seeing.
Interest. If you want me to go first, I'll go first. There's definite interest in CTV, right? There's more interest. The viewers, the numbers are increasing, and where the eyeballs are going to go, the dollars are going to follow. So it is finding that balance between those two channels, you know, within video. We do look at video holistically across the board. So we are trying to, and I think very successfully for most of our clients, trying to find the areas where we should leverage video for bottom of the funnel activities, conversions, things like that. But also understanding that at there is space, and there must be branding, there must be mass awareness, and linear television does that better than anybody still.
Yeah, I think just to kind of add to that, the really knowing what they're trying to achieve, and matching the tact to it, right? So, like, if you're trying to create awareness, you still need upper funnel tactic from a branding standpoint, and linear TV, to Tracy's point, is there to do that. And then as you come down, can CTV become upper funnel? It's hard to say because it is one-to-one versus one-to-many, but can we find ways to make that work to expand the reach of what we're trying to do? But maybe potentially, I think just really knowing what they're looking to do, and not just saying it needs to be CTV or it needs to be this because that's where dollars are today, but it's really, what are you trying to achieve, and how do we then fit that activation and strategy behind it?
So Melissa, you know, as we were just reminded by Nikhil, you know, historically, it's taken a year, maybe, you know, a little less, a little longer, to understand TV's impact. How are you working to accelerate measurement and prove outcomes faster?
Yeah, so I think that back to that tactic thing of really knowing what you're trying to achieve with the tack that you're using. As far as accelerating it, I think it's important to, like, identify which signals are going to best predict our long-term ROAS. And in doing so, TV can still take time. There's things like MMMs that have come a really long way, that you used to have to wait 6 months or a year to get results on them. And with the acceleration of AI, there's companies that can now do that on a much more accelerated timeline. as well as a much more cost-effective timeline. So we look at things like, how do we pair with MMMs as well as attribution partners to kind of take the full funnel and make sure that we're measured and attacked against what it can do.
All right. Tracy, anything to add to that?
I would say that we're also working very actively with our measurement partners to ensure that we are getting accurate, timely, and effective measurement, and expanding some of the things that we do to measure, like foot traffic studies, brand awareness studies, understanding what the different media channels do through MMM models is critical in making sure that we're spending the money in the right places at the right time.
So Nikhil also noted rising doubts, and this is a doozy of a question here, but noted rising doubts about DSPs and SSPs to effectively map and sequence TV ads. And he noted the 20% of programmatic ad spend going to DSPs. I would say if you're reading any research, you can see anything from 15 to 40% quoted is going to intermediaries during that process, if not even more. Tracy, how are you approaching the supply chain to ensure efficiency, transparency, accountability in your buys?
I would agree that we probably are losing across the industry an investment to DSPs and SSPs. We also have a way to leverage internally our own operating systems to be able to deliver against clients within linear television and CTV and reduce duplication and increase reach. So by creating some of our own avenues to do these things and direct relationships, we're mitigating some of that. We have a product called Lift that allows us to deduplicate linear TV and CTV to make sure that we can expand reach. And we utilize that quite often. In the local space, the programmatic issue is not as prevalent as it is in the national space for us, because we do a lot of direct buying still.
So same question, but a little bit more focused, Melissa, in terms of barter. Traditionally, barter has thrived on securing guaranteed TV inventory. So does programmatic CTV disrupt that model, or does it open up new opportunities for you?
So I think the disruption opens up the new opportunity, right? So the idea that we can be buying direct and making sure every media dollar goes against media it seems like something that is a no-brainer, but then you add in what the tech can offer and the data in the tech can offer. So again, back to that, what's the tactic that you're trying to achieve? Allows for us. I made the joke about like barter's been around forever, but it just opens new areas for us to find abilities to trade, right? So whether it's with the publishers direct, which would be where we've historically sat, but not always just on guaranteed inventory. We've transacted in the direct response marketplace, which has volatility into supply and demand and clearance rates. But now this just allows us to open up other areas with, whether it be with data partners, the SSPs and the DSPs direct, to create different partnerships, help provide different value to them that can then also be passed along in a value chain to our clients.
So a recurring theme that we've heard today and we see frequently is that treating TV only as a performance channel and forcing it to the bottom of the funnel risks incremental reach and brand growth. I think Nikhil did a really good job of talking us through that. Tracy, for you, how are you balancing short-term performance with long-term brand building?
Really goes back to, I feel like we keep answering the question the same way. It goes back to the client strategy. What should the balance be? If I have a client that is deeply invested in driving conversions, and I'm going to take a different approach if I have a client who wants to launch a new product, relaunch a brand, launch a new brand. So it is that balance. It's really understanding what the needs are and how you want to activate the channel.
Earlier this year, eMarketer predicted that year-over-year growth in US CTV media would reach 17%. I think it was 16 or 17%, surpassing 33 billion. We talked about, or Nikhil talked about, the barrier of price, but what other barriers still, and even if it's price that we want to talk about here, but what other barriers still need to be solved for TV to reach its full potential? Melissa, any thoughts on that?
I think one of the things Nikhil said, which was great, was TV's value in its impression is its imprecision. So making sure that we remember that not every single view has to convert directly, and that part of the value that television brings is the value of reach. But that ties directly into measurement. So I think that some of the hard solves, and I feel like we've been talking about measurement for forever, but now we're talking about it between linear and CTV, and the measurement of an impression served versus a panel data impression are just different. So how are we targeting on age and gender from the linear side still, where we can be targeted on the CTV side, and how do we bring those things together? Brand marketers rely on the full funnel for awareness, performances based on the last touch of attribution. And now we're trying to make two things do both of those things at the same time. So how do we make sure that we align to where those things kind of sit, as well as measure them equally for what value they're bringing to the table?
So I think, for both of you, it'd be interesting to understand, what kind of challenges you're facing when you're negotiating with broadcasters and platforms, knowing they're under pressure to monetize every impression.
One is, it does go back to measurement too, right? Again, and we do talk about it a lot. I think I talk about it every day, because they're measured differently. They're measured, the amount of time spent watching linear TV ad is different than the amount of time in measurement than a CTV ad. They're not even measured fairly and equally across the two. The co-viewing piece of it is always another issue that needs to be addressed. So where there is not accurate and timely and concise measurement, there's not as much value. And so linear TV has to solve for the measurement piece. And then I always talk about the fact we are still buying linear TV like we bought it decades ago. It's a legacy buying model. It is not like when you buy CTV. And if the linear TV stations want to continue to be successful, I think they really need to relook at their model, because the days of chasing after under delivery weight and all this other nonsense are going to be gone. It's not going to be, the tolerance for the complexity that they've made this buying method, is not going to be acceptable.
Just to
And
add
if
to
the
that,
eyeballs continue to move, the money's going to move, and then we're going to have the other challenge of how complex they've made it to buy.
and just like thinking on the local marketplace, it's only been a couple of years that impressions have been what is the major currency for transacting versus GRPs, and that's just part of the way to bring it along, to be able to then compare it on a CPM basis from the linear side to the CTV side, and that's still on different measurements, Tracy, to your point of a panel and needing make goods and ADU weight versus an impression served as an impression served and delivered. So that's what you're going to get, because we know what that audience base is going to be. So I think it continues from a measurement standpoint to just be one of the areas that we all need to figure out of how best to bring the two together to get the most out of what they both can offer.
And to Nikhil's point of this whole discussion is the education of how to use the channel effectively. When to use the channel, what's the strategy, and what is the right way to use the channel. And I mean video holistically. Linear television itself, we know, is a branding machine. It does it. It's been proven again and again. but the complexity of how it is sold, the complexity of how it's being measured, those are all huge key challenges. So between the measurement and the education of the channel, I think those are the biggest hurdles and things we have to stay close to.
You know, one of the things I wrote down that Nikhil said is that it's a mistake to treat TV just like other digital media. TV complements rather than competes. So, you know, on that note, holistically, I would love to get both of your thoughts on the report that Nikhil just went over in general. You know, you read it, we talked about it. How are you feeling about this report? What stood out to you? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? Are there any points in there that you feel are pretty strong or weak?
You go ahead, Tracy.
Well, I also wrote down it complements versus competes, and I do think so at the consumer side of things. But realistically, at the agency side, at the marketer side, it does compete. That's just a fact.
And I think that the idea of the supply side, that a lot of these channels from a DSP and SSP standpoint were built for display, and now the CTV market is certainly bigger than what the linear side is, but it's not as expansive as what the display marketplace is, and finding the right balance of what needs to go through pipes for an optimization goal to create a lead gen or a lower funnel action versus what needs to go through a pipe for having better data and allocations are two very different things. And are those pipes all full DSP, SSP, or are they like Neo from WBD, or what Disney's has their own platform that they're saying you can buy in platform? I don't necessarily see those two things as exactly the same, and maybe those two we need to be looking at a bit differently.
All right, thank you for that. We're going to do a little bit of a speed round here because who doesn't love a good speed round? So I'll start off. Whoever wants to hop in first on these, feel free. Let's start with looking ahead. So when you look ahead, what innovation will have the biggest impact on TV advertising in the next 2 to 3 years?
AI.
Right.
Like, I mean, it was
Yeah.
if we didn't both say it, I would have been really surprised.
I was going to say we could have bet money on that and all won. But can you be a little more specific? What do you think is going to be the best part of AI that you've seen to date that's going to, really help drive innovation?
I think allowing people to spend more time doing the hard part and the thinking part versus a lot of the process part, right? We don't need people clicking to get to something. If that could be served up, and then we can be analyzing it and making decisions off of it versus and being not just the information served up and the differences, the highlights, the things that you should be looking at to then make decisions off of. I think it sounds so easy, and that where we are in AI, it should be there, but integrating that into actual workflows and processes I don't think is as easy as we all think. I spend a lot of time on calls about this sort of thing of how do we make the team's work more impactful for the execution versus just making sure it's getting done. So I think there, and then obviously the creative side of things is like continuing to allow for things to just accelerate from a timing perspective.
I would say I think AI is going to impact measurement sooner than later. I've seen things that are that should be being developed to help, but also the processes, like the process of buying and stewarding media is very manual and not automated as it should be. And I think allowing and the development of AI to help with some of that process work and allowing the folks, just like Melissa said, to do the smarter thinking and do the more thought leadership, more really understanding and of the insights of what we're getting is going to be advanced beyond our expectations in the next few years. And it really is going to allow us to do more with less too.
And in our personal lives as well, hopefully. What is the one, we talked a lot about metrics in almost every dialogue during this this last 20 minutes or so, but what is the one metric that matters the most in TV, CTV?
Think
Reach.
probably reach and recall, 2 R's. So reach is important, but then if people aren't recalling it to do something with it, then the effectiveness is kind of lost.
I'd say effective reach then.
Perfect. I love it.
They're not going to remember it anyway. So
Yep.
reach. It's just.
All right, I'm taking notes. So. All right. And please be objective, but the one piece of ad tech you cannot live without.
Mediaocean.
That's, by the way, this was not a throw up question.
The
alley-oop.
Obviously,
a
that
buying platform. We need an activation platform, planning platform.
I also think that the reporting tools. So like we are very head first into like Power BI and Datorama to serve up what's happening, right? So like linear goes a little bit slower from a response rate, but can we make those things feel more digital because we can have the information served to us? So I think those are really important too, but you can't get any of that information if you don't have a place to buy it.
Cool. All right. One more. What's the one buzzword you wish would go away? You'd be happy if you saw the back of it.
That's a sneaky one. You didn't tell us you were going to ask that.
No, sorry.
RPD plus? No.
I don't know. Maybe I have a whole bunch, but
List a few.
I think dashboards I would be good with going away, even though I just mentioned them because everybody has a dashboard and the service of it. I think that like platforms as a new thing, I could really go like they're not new. We've been using platforms to buy forever. So I don't know that I need the word to go away, but the concept of like everything is now platform is like whether we call it software or platforms or what, we've been using tech to do this for a long time.
Yeah.
It's good. I got to think about that too. I actually didn't think about that for myself, but the whole efficiency thing, you know, it feels like it's a theme that, hey, what are your top goals for the year? Efficiency, you know, what are you focused on this year? Efficiency. I kind of wish that we would be more specific than labeling everything under that umbrella of efficiency. But listen, any final thoughts before we pass this back over to Aaron?
Appreciate you guys including me. I think I really like the Forrester report. I feel like took a different view from a lot of things that we read and see on a regular basis. So it's really interesting. Thank you.
I would echo what Melissa said is, you know, obviously, thank you for having me. I love these conversations. I also would say that the unique perspective that was brought to the table with this article is really appreciated because it gives what we've been trying to say a different voice and some accreditation, because a lot of time within the fight for linear television and the fight for effective planning and effective reach, linear is pushed to the side sometimes because the digital beast is out there, you know, chomping away at things. But there is a real reason and many real reasons to still invest in local linear television. So I appreciate the perspective.
Well, we appreciate you both. Thank you so much for the insightful discussion, and looking forward to continuing to partner together. And Aaron, we're back to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Steph, Tracy, Melissa. Really appreciate that, sharing the insights. And we've just got a couple final things to share with you here today. Um, just want to share a few accolades that we've received recently. Thank you to our customers who have been pushing us forward in the industry. And the first is from G2 and their fall reports. So Prisma was featured as a leader for a few different categories, including cross-channel advertising and video. You can hit the QR code to read more. We'll drop the link in the chat. It was not a plant question that Steph asked in terms of the tech that you can't live without, but we're proud to play a foundational role here in the industry, and the reviews from customers that are behind these G2 reports are incredible, just in terms of validating the value that we provide to our customers in the industry. So we had highest user adoption among the enterprise segment, and a few others as well. So you can read more about that. Also, Innovid was named a leader by G2 in a number of different categories. Social, mobile, video, the total, 76 badges racked up in all, including best usability, ROI, fastest implementation. In Nikhil's research that he shared at the beginning, he talked about that critical role of the ad server in the TV ecosystem, and certainly that's where Innovid sits, and the testimonies from clients that go into these G2 reports based on the authenticated reviews are a testament to that. So again, we'll share that link, and you can hit that QR code. Just a couple more here to share. We have the Ad Exchanger Awards coming up next week. So super excited for that. Mediaocean CEO Bill Wise is the finalist for leadership in advertising. So fingers crossed he'll bring home that trophy. And Innovid is up for best measurement or analytics capability. So hoping it's a 2-4 for us at the Ad Exchanger Awards. And then lastly, Innovid was just named the most valuable pioneer by QKS in the AI maturity matrix for ad tech. So AI came up as the top trend that everyone is paying attention to. There's a number of different use cases that we are actively breaking here. Breaking, I should say, introducing, not break. Well, I guess in some cases we're actually breaking some of the processes as well in a good way. Focused on delivering tangible value. So we all know AI is transforming all aspects of advertising. And so from a Mediaocean standpoint, across Prisma, Innovid, and Protected, we're incorporating AI in everything we do across our surfaces. So stay tuned for more. Thank you all for joining us for this webinar today. Thanks again to our speakers. Wish you a great rest of your day, and hope you'll join us again on an upcoming Mediaocean Current webinar. Thank you. Bye-bye.